we will go ahead and we'll get started with our little energy bites here. So I have all my stuff set out already. That's how I like to start, just with everything already out. That way I'm not like searching for things. Obviously the first thing we want to start with is washing our hands. So if you haven't done that, go ahead and wash your hands. And you can get your measuring cups and spoons and stuff like that out if you don't have those already. And we'll get started. So we are gonna add our oats in here. It's 1 cup of oats. We'll dump those into our mixing bowl. I have a 1/2 cup just because I don't want to get a ton of mixing cups dirty. So measuring cups dirty. So a cup of our oats will go in there. Next is unsweetened shredded coconut. Honestly, you can't really taste the coconut. It doesn't have a super coconutty flavor if you don't like coconut. So you can't really taste it in the energy bite, but it does add some texture to the bite there too. So if you don't like coconut and you really don't want to risk putting it in there, you can always add more oats if you wanted to. But I like the coconut. It adds a little bit more fiber and a little extra crunch. So it's 2/3 of a cup of coconut. Dump that on in. If you weren't able to get the ingredients for this today, I know some of the stores have been a little low on stuff. That's totally fine. I will post this recipe on our Facebook page, so you'll be able to get it there, and then you can make them in your own time if you want to. So we have our 2/3 of a cup of our unsweetened coconut flakes. And then next is a 1/2 cup of flaxseed. It's brown flaxseed, which I know isn't something that people typically use a lot of. So if you had to buy it, here's some other ways that you can use it. So it's really good in meatloaf is a good thing to add it in. You can use it in place of breadcrumbs, so you can use it on like breaded fish, breaded chicken, stuff like that. It's got a lot of benefits to it. So a lot of extra fiber, has omega-3 fatty acids in there, more protein than just your regular breadcrumbs. A lot of extra benefits to it there. But you can basically use it as kind of like a bulk agent, if you will. You can also put it in smoothies if you want to too. It kind of has like a nutty flavor, so it wouldn't add a super strong flavor. So if you bought some, that's some other ways that you can use that. I store mine in the freezer because the nutritional properties decrease really quickly as it sits. So if you put it in the freezer, they don't decrease quite as. You can use it straight out of the freezer as well. You don't have to thaw it or anything like that, just because it's ground up. There's no liquid in it that's going to cause it to freeze. So if anybody has questions on flaxseed, you're always welcome to shoot me an email. We can talk about it there too. So a 1/2 cup of our flaxseed just went in. Now we're going to do a 1/2 cup of peanut butter. So we'll just pour that. I use rough measurements. It doesn't have to be exactly 1/2 cup where we scrape it off with our knife or anything like that. But our 1/2 cup of peanut butter is going in. Now for this recipe that I used, which when I post it onto our Facebook page, I'll post the kind of nutritional information with it as well. But I use natural peanut butter. I like to check and make sure that the label doesn't have anything other than peanuts and usually salt. That way I know I'm not getting any extra sugar or anything like that in there. So there is our peanut butter. half a cup of that, so we'll dump that in. And actually, Kroger makes a really cheap natural peanut butter, if anybody's looking for that. So we did our half cup peanut butter. We're gonna do a 1/4 cup of cocoa powder. And we want this to be the unsweetened cocoa powder as well. This was one of the things that was sold out of the grocery store when I did my shopping list last week. So I got special dark cocoa powder. I haven't made it with a special dark cocoa powder, so we'll see how that goes. Also, how many times can you say cocoa powder in 30 seconds, Alex? So we'll dump our 1/4 cup in there. And then a 1/4 cup of maple syrup or honey or any other natural sweetener that you want to use. If you use something like the agave, you're going to want to use less because it is a lot sweeter than our maple syrup or our honey that we're using here. So just keep that in mind if that's something that you use. I use maple syrup rather than honey because I have a baby. So if I give him any of these, I want to, and he's old enough to eat these things. I want to make sure that it doesn't have honey in it just because honey is not recommended for kids under 1. So we'll dump our 1/4 cup of maple syrup in there. Next is 1 teaspoon of vanilla. That. And this one is optional, but I put 1 tablespoon of chia seeds in mine as well. Again, they just add some added nutrients, some extra protein, extra omega-3 fatty acids, which are those healthy fats that we need in our diet, and just some more fiber in there as well. So that's an optional thing. You don't have to add those in. If you don't have them, that's totally fine. But I have them around because I use them in my oatmeal and I make chia seed pudding and stuff like that. So I had them. If you don't, that's okay. Our energy bites will still turn out even if you didn't add the chia seeds in there. So we have all of our ingredients in. We're going to give this a good mix, either with your spoon or your spatula, whatever you have. It can take a couple minutes to kind of get everything incorporated. And it's going to look pretty like crumbly at first. That is okay. Once we go to like mixing them, forming them into our little energy bites, if we need more liquid, if we need, if it's too liquidy, then we'll add that at that point. So after we mix this in, it actually refrigerates for about 30 minutes. So you'll stick yours in the fridge. I made a batch ahead of time, so I can kind of show you how I roll them into little ball shapes. But you can also, you don't have to form them into balls if you don't want to. You can also like press them into a pan and cut them into bars if you would rather do that. Whatever shape you want. You can use cookie cutters and cut them into different shapes for your kids if you want to do that. So we'll mix these together, make sure we get all the oats off the bottom. All right. So here's what mine look like. You can see it's pretty crumbly, but there are some big chunks that stick together. So that's what we want. That's a good thing. So once all of yours is mixed in together, go ahead and cover and put it into the fridge. We want to refrigerate it for about 30 minutes before we pull it out and shake them. So I'm going to stick this one in there, and I'm going to pull out my one that I made earlier so we can do that. Okay. If I can get the lid off. We know it's sealed in there, so that's a good thing. There we go. Okay, so here's what they look like after they've been refrigerated. It's just a little bit more congealed. So we are going to roll those into balls. Let me get a bowl to put our finished ones in. So these you can store them in the fridge once they're all rolled. You can store them in the fridge for a couple days. If it's going to be longer than that, they're also freezable as well. So you can stick them in the freezer in just like a plastic baggie and then pull them out when you need them. But do keep them in the fridge for storage. So as we are kind of gathering a handful here, it's still going to be pretty crumbly, and that's okay. If you start to roll yours, like I said, into that ball shape, and it's just not sticking together, go ahead and do a couple more spoonfuls of peanut butter and see if that helps it kind of stick. If it's just really liquidy and it's kind of running everywhere, go ahead and do either some more coconut or some more of your oats in there, and that's going to help kind of bulk it up a little bit. As you kind of work with these, they're going to heat up in your hand, and so they'll roll into a ball a little bit easier. I just kind of do a palmful, so about that much. And just squeeze them into a rough ball shape. This makes about 24 of these energy bites. They're about an inch in diameter. So like I said, you can make them bigger, you can make them smaller, you can make them into bars. Whatever you want to do with them is just fine. I like the ball shape because I think they're easier to kind of grab and go, or to throw in a bag. So that's just what I do. One of these bites is about 85 calories or so. So 3 or 4 is comparable to like a Cliff Bar or a granola bar or something like that, which these are a good alternative for, especially since, you know, we made them ourselves. We know what's going in there, so we don't have to worry about any extra stuff going in. So we'll just roll these into our ball shape. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to turn on your mics and ask. I'm totally cool with that. Or type into the chat if you want to. I'll answer any questions that you have. I'm just going to finish rolling these into the little ball shape, and then we'll be good. So again, if you are with Fort Wayne Community Schools, please go ahead and type your name into the chat. That way I can get you your points. If you're not, still type your name and where you're from, and that way we can kind of keep track of that. And this will also be posted on our YouTube page. So if you're watching from YouTube, send me an email with the words energy bites or something like that, and I will get your points added for you that way as well. My email is alexandria.degitz@fwcs. Degitz is D-E-G-I-T-Z. So in the freezer, you can keep them about 6 months, just kind of like anything else in the freezer. If you notice that they're freezer burnt or anything like that, probably don't want to eat them, but as long as they're still good, they can keep for about 6 months. Good question. These are a good thing to like make in bulk too, and that way you can just store them in the freezer and pull them out, and you only have to make them every once in a while. So I don't know if you guys can hear the baby crying or not. He just got up from a nap. Yes, you're welcome. Thank you for the question. So if anybody else has any questions, you're welcome to ask. Otherwise, thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoy these. They taste kind of like a no-bake cookie, which I love those. So it's kind of a nice little treat for you too. Just not as much sugar and stuff like that. So a good healthy alternative to those no bakes. You'll notice that the bottom gets pretty crumbly, but the more you kind of work it in your hands and it heats up, the easier it is to put together too. So. All right, so I've got like one more. I made these a little extra big today, which is fine. One more ball here. Here we go. Oh, I lost my hand. This is also a super fun activity for kids to do too if they're looking for something to do. Always good to get them involved in the kitchen, but something really easy that they can do and they might enjoy. So here's kind of our end product. They look like no-bake cookies, only in ball form, which is awesome. Again, thank you guys for joining me for this. I hope you enjoy these. If you like them, shoot me an email, tell me what you think. I'll post the recipe on our Facebook page, so you'll have that available. And yeah, again, if you're with Fort Wayne Community Schools, type your name into the chat. If you're watching from YouTube, send me an email with the words Energy Bites and I'll get you your points for doing that. So thank you guys. I hope you have a good rest of your day.